Good evening. Those were today's headlines. First, and following the death of General Abdel Hakim Gashi, commander of the National School for Military Health, on Friday at the Army's Central Hospital, Mohammed Sagher Naqash, the President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune, Supreme Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, Minister of National Defense, presented his sincere condolences to the family of the late, as well as to all the members of the National People's Army, praying Allah Almighty to welcome him in his vast paradise. For his part, and in the same context, the Chief of Staff of the National People's Army, Lieutenant General Saeed Chingireha, cast the last glance at the body of the deceased General Abdel Hakim Gashi and recited the opening chapter of the Holy Quran at the Army's Central Hospital here in Algiers. This took place in the presence of Lieutenant General Ben Ali, Commander of the Republican Guard, the Secretary General of the Ministry of National Defense, Forces Commanders, Commander of the National Gendarmerie, Commander of the 1st Military Region, heads of departments, directors and heads of departments of the Ministry of National Defense, members of the National People's Army, as well as executives and staff of the Army's hospital.
وارحم والدينا وارحم موتانا وآله وصحبه أجمعين.
On this painful ordeal, the Chief of Staff of the National People's Army renewed on his behalf and on behalf of the National People's Army's personnel his most sincere condolences to the family of the deceased, recalling and highlighting his long and rich career, while also praying Allah Almighty to welcome him in his vast paradise. To Allah we belong, and to him we shall return. Moving on to sports, the International Committee of the Mediterranean Games expressed its full satisfaction with the efforts deployed by the national authorities concerning the preparations of the upcoming Mediterranean Games slated for June 2022. The details with Melissa Kebash.
As the finishing touches are being applied by the local authorities of Oran province, only 2 months separate us from the Mediterranean Games. The majority of these sports infrastructures are already done and built according to international standards to respond to the needs of athletes participating in this event.
On sait que le village méditerranéen est fini, qu'il est de grande qualité, donc ça c'est très important, l'accueil.
We know that the Mediterranean village is done according to international standards, alongside other infrastructures. The matter of visas is solved for its part as well, thanks to the facilitations of the President of the Republic. Meetings are also held between the Coordinating Committee reporting to the International Committee of the Mediterranean Games and the Organizing National Committee of the 19th edition of the Mediterranean Games.
راني أنا بالنسبة لي يعني فرحان بالتقييم.
I'm very happy with the current progress noted by the International Committee. It is worth mentioning that during the meetings, the committee expressed its satisfaction when it comes to the quality of the infrastructures. The preparations are in full swing to ensure the smooth running of the Games, while no less than 4,000 athletes of different nationalities are awaited to respond to this important sports event.
Still with sports, the building of the Douira Stadium has finally resumed after being on hold for many years, a stadium that can accommodate 40,000 spectators. More details with Sabrin Teferganit.
After years of suspension, the construction of Dwyer Stadium has finally resumed, working day and night in the presence of all facilitation measures in order to make up for delays and the backlog, therefore to assure delivering this stadium expeditiously. We have arranged the payment of the unpaid workers for the benefit of the Chinese company in charge of the realization. The National Company of Public Works, SNTP, has been charged of the work related to road infrastructures. A new engineering office has been charged of the construction of this infrastructure and to ensure the adequate development of the stadium according to the international standards.
Our mission began as soon as the studies were updated according to 2011 FIFA standards in order to be approved by the International Football Authority. This stadium can accommodate 40,000 spectators. It has a capacity of 38 hectares. There is a mixed zone, changing rooms, toilets and passages between stands. You should know that there are several FIFA safety standards to respect.
Planning a rigorous work plan was the main goal in order to accelerate the process of the construction flawlessly, a new challenge facing the Ministry of Housing, Urban Planning and the city. All the companies in charge were encouraged to work with a specific system to make up for the delay and thus to deliver the project on time. Aiming to assure the best construction of the stadium, all obstacles has been removed. The missions have been well defined and the long-awaited mega project can finally see the light.
In other news and concerning local production, a metal furniture production unit located in Constantine province offers quality products with affordable prices. After gaining the local inhabitants' trust, the manufacturers are now aiming at exporting their furniture abroad. Ines Killu has the details.
This metal furniture manufacturing unit, located in the commune of Bni Badis in Constantine province, has taken up this challenge. More than 15,000 pieces are produced each month, thanks to a local workforce that has completed their vocational training or has been trained at the level of the factory.
I did my internship at the factory level and now I got my permanent job here. Our goal this year is to increase our production capacity to 30,000 units per month, so we have recruited a large number of young trainees.
The company initially focused on the national market, and now, thanks to its strong production, which meets the international standards, its goal today is to move to export.
With a 100% Algerian product that meets all the international standards, we are planning to start exporting very soon.
This kind of investment, the production which is eligible for export, will not only supply the national market, but also reduce the import bill in the future.
In another development, the Zionist occupation forces continue their intimidation campaign. A total embargo is imposed on the West Bank by denying Palestinians access to all crossings to the Gaza Strip until next Sunday. Whereas in occupied Al-Quds, another aggression caused the injury of dozens of Palestinians on Friday. In Western Sahara, the U.S. human rights activist Ruth McDonough broke the media embargo imposed on the Sahrawi human rights activist Sultana Khaya. Ruth started a hunger strike to demand her release, as well as the release of all human rights activists detained by the Makhzen. The details with Ines Killu.
Under house arrest since September 19, 2019, in the occupied city of Boujdour, Sultana Khaya suffered from the brutality of the Moroccan security services and the cruelty of the Makhzen followers, which has also affected her sister Fatima and other members of her family. The abuse suffered by Sultana Khaya and her family are denounced by the international human rights organizations. most recently by an American human rights activists who posed as tourists and succeed to breach the vigilance of Moroccan colonial forces in order to lift the siege imposed on Sultana Khaya and her family, like the American human rights activist Ruth McDonough.
We are very proud and impressed by the courage of our sisters, the Sahrawi activist Sultana Khaya and her sister Al-Wa'ra. They proved their courage by confronting the Makhzen regime, who put them through the worst forms of violation. We understood that both activists didn't have a choice beside dealing with the Makhzen. They've opposed and refused the injustice and violations of the regime. Sultana Khaya and her sister Al-Wa'ra are strong women who stood up to the occupier and is now part of their daily life.
In addition to the two sisters, 6 other women activists have been placed under house arrest and their neighborhoods have been cordoned by police. In November 2021, the non-governmental organization Amnesty International called for an urgence to immediately halt the violent attacks against Sultana Khaya and her family and to conduct a full and independent investigation into the excessive use of attacks by colonial forces against her and her family, including allegations of rape and sexual assault, and to ensure that those responsible are brought to justice in a fair trial.
The Algerian team of flyers will not participate in the International Cup of Flyers held in Morocco. The decision was taken after the participation of the Zionist entity's team in this competition was confirmed, a decision which reiterates Algeria's refusal of all policies aiming at normalizing relations with the Zionist entity. And with that, our today's news edition comes to a close. Thank you for your attention.